That's for my bets. So.
I'd like to call the meeting to order, please.
Turn it on or plug it in.
Is it recording?
All right, notice of annual town meeting, Town of Woodstock, April 21st, 2026 at 7 p.m. The annual town meeting of the electors and citizens qualified to vote in town meetings of the Town of Woodstock, Connecticut will be held on Tuesday, April 21st, 2026 at 7 p.m. at the Woodstock Middle School, 147 Route 169 in Woodstock. The meeting will be held to consider the following actions and to vote on the following resolutions. 1, to elect a moderator. 2, to approve the proposed budget of the Town of Woodstock for the fiscal year ending June 30th, 2027, in the amount of $31,522,343. I can never say that. As has been recommended by the Board of Finance, and to appropriate said sum to meet the recommended expenditures. Number 3, to adopt a capital improvement plan for a 5-year period ending 2030-2031, as has been recommended by the Board of Finance. Resolved that the Town of Woodstock's local capital improvement projects of $19,141,000 and capital improvement plan as defined in section 7-535 through 7-538, a copy of which plan is on file in the office of the town clerk and available for public inspection during normal business hours. 4, to transact such other business as may properly come before said meeting, and 5, to adjourn. Please note, pursuant to section 7-7 of the Connecticut General Statutes, the Woodstock Board of Selectmen have on their own initiative removed the foregoing item number 2 for submission to the voters of the Town of Woodstock by referendum to be held on April 28th, 2026 from 12 noon to 8 p.m. at the Woodstock Town Hall. Voters approving the question will vote yes, and those opposing the question will vote no. Absentee ballots will be available at the office of the town clerk. And we also have some here if anybody wants to pick one up tonight. This was dated at Woodstock, Connecticut on the 8th day of April, 2026 by the Board of Selectmen, Chandler L. Paquette, Kate McDonald, Chris Mayhew, and attested by me, the town clerk. Do I have any nominations for moderator?
Ed Higgins?
Second.
Do I have any other nominations for moderator? Hearing none. All in favor? Any opposed? Any abstentions? Thank you.
Thank you, Chris. Good evening, everybody. We'll, as we have in the past, try to go through the budget. We'll have 2 parts of it. We'll have Mr. Roach, the superintendent, will just offer any overview that he has, realizing that the budgets, both budgets have gone to public hearings with the Board of Finance previously, and it's not necessary probably to go through everything line by line. And then after Mr. Roach has spoke, we'll take any questions or comments that the audience may want to make. And Dean has helpfully offered to have been volunteered to go around with a microphone. So what we'll do is if you raise your hand, Dean will bring the microphone over. You can just give us your name and your residence address, just for the record. And then we also have folks, because it's on Zoom, if we do get anybody that wants to offer comments or questions remotely, Mr. McDonald will flag us and we'll kind of figure that out as we go along, but try to get everybody to have an opportunity that wants to talk or comment to do so. And then we will try to go around the room first to let everybody have an initial opportunity. And if you could keep your question or comments to roughly 3 minutes, that would be helpful. And then we'll do a follow-up if anybody else has any follow-up questions or comments they want to ask or answer. So to start our discussion, I'll entertain a motion to open item 2 for discussion. Kate? Second by Paul. Okay. All in favor, say aye. Opposed? Thank you. Okay, Mr. Roach, if you'd like to come up, you have this.
Oh, boy.
Apologies.
Yes, sir.
I'm short.
No, you're fine. Okay, thank you for the introduction. My name is Christopher Roach, Superintendent in the Woodstock Public Schools. Preface the conversation by letting you know that we were not presenting tonight, but we're presenting. I wish I had the visuals up there for you. Just some background. I've spent most of my career in school reform. So when it comes to the issue of adding, I'm a big believer in return on investment. And I think if you haven't heard this sermon before, you certainly will over time. So as we look at this budget, we're looking to add gradually, okay? And my sort of theory of action in all of this is if we invest modestly and strategically aligned to the areas of need. And when I say areas of need, 60% of the students in the Woodstock Public Schools in grades 3 through 8 are not proficient on the math Smarter Balance assessment. We are struggling immensely in that area. And in order to help ameliorate that, we've put forth what I deem a responsible budget, certainly by regional standards, and then looking across the state. In the past, asks have come at 13 point whatever, 9 point whatever. We're coming in at 4.97. The budget is built around key levers for school district improvement. And what that means, this is irritating, hold on. Yeah, I'm gonna do it this way. Good. Yeah, there you go. Yeah. All right, so important that I point out that when you look at grade 3 in a public school system, grade 3 is the grade where you start to learn. You move from learning to read to reading to learn. It's really where you take off in terms of your literacy. It presupposes that a strong foundation in early literacy exists to be successful. So students who are not successful by the end of their grade, their odds of being successful from a literacy perspective are they're 4 times more likely to drop out. All right. We have to invest in the early grades, the kindergartens, first grade, and our scientific research-based intervention, fancy way of saying we need early literacy support for students who are struggling, small group targeted to their needs. In this particular budget, what we're asking for is to restore the SRBI reading teacher. Again, SRBI meaning I teach struggling readers who are struggling with their reading comprehension or their fluency. That it's legally mandated. We had to really move things around to make somewhat of an SRBI position this year. It is not best practice, so we are legally mandated. We're asking for something that we must have. Additionally, when you don't invest in SRBI, you then on the back end pay in terms of special education, false eligibility qualification because we didn't provide the necessary services. We'd love to reestablish the enrichment class, a STEAM-based learning experience, problem solving. It not only increases student engagement, but it gives students an idea of what the real world has to offer, coming out, being excited about coming to school. And you really can't put a price on that, but it's something that I heard from parents loud and clear. We need the JV sports and we need that enrichment back. So that was really, really important. So that's 2 positions, again, both of which we had in the prior year. The new position, although when I was reading a document from 1999 this afternoon, I guess it's not as new as I thought, and that was a math specialist. The math specialist or math coach, if you will, is what I deem a multiplier position. It touches everybody in both schools, while indirectly, if I am a superstar mathematically in terms of my coaching, I am coaching teachers across 2 buildings, so the impact on 750 students versus the impact on a group of 20. Key position, probably one of the more complex positions in all of the education realm, providing job embedded support throughout the day. It's a huge driver of academic success. We need to grow in that area. It's a real high leverage position. Adding a special education paraeducator that's legally bound by the individual education plan and a custodian. When you look at the overall budget, about 50% of it is bound by collective bargaining agreements. Would be more, but we're K-8, so we pay for the tuition across the street and in neighboring districts, but we do not pay for the cost of the personnel unless it's bound by IEP. Tuition, 32.4%, bound by non-negotiable rates set forth by the school districts and the IEPs that accompany them. Transportation's at 7.71, that's total in it with all of our transportation. Maintenance and operations is 4.23% of the budget, and there's very limited decisions that are within my control and the control of the Board of Ed. To a degree, staffing, but to a very small degree, program enhancements, curriculum resources, and professional learning. That's essentially it when you take out any sort of contractual obligation and the law. So in this particular budget, as I said, we're looking at 3 key lever positions, 2/3 of which were cut last year. When I say cut, I repurposed these individuals to offset enormous class sizes. And I would do that again, even though it was the wrong decision, but I needed to because I don't need 23 kindergartners in a class. Not effective when we talk about early literacy. We're struggling in math, we need to add a math specialist, common sense. We provide legally mandated services. Again, that falls under the category of, you must. Reestablishing the JV sports, as I indicated, is something that I heard loud and clear from parents. And these are a few of the areas that we were going to add to ensure that we get to where we need to get to in our district improvement plan. So when I look overall, we are looking at a net increase of 1.174 million, which is a 4.9% difference year over year. In that there are 7.67% different in the area of salaries. When you add positions, generally speaking, these salaries line goes up, but nominally. When you look at our benefits, that goes up with the added positions, but overall, I believe going up 1.174, which is 4.97 as well within the regional range. It's also, I'm not going to cite all of these numbers because it wouldn't be nice to do to the other districts, but we're coming in at a very, very reasonable rate. Now, I say that, the last thing I'm going to say, Dina, is if we could have a separate conversation, which I'd love to have with all of you, about the role of the state of Connecticut and school finance. If you read up on what the state contributes, it is abysmal, embarrassing, and it really needs to be changed. But the way to change that is not by speaking against this particular budget, but rather speaking about what the state needs to do differently, in my estimation. So again, 1.174 increase year over year, 4.97%. And I'm happy to take any questions from the crowd, audience, I should say.
Thank you, Chris. Does anybody have any questions or comments they'd like to offer?
Dean Phillips Smith Road. I'd like to know if you know what the state is going to be giving as their contribution to Woodstock.
Yeah, so at this point, I don't know the exact number that the state's going to give. I could tell you every single year, you're somewhere between, well, I do know we're going to be receiving about $4,545 per student from the state. Costs about $20,000 to $21,000, actually $21,000 plus to educate a child based on our current services. $4,545 of which come from the state of Connecticut.
Anybody else? Questions or comments? Everybody wants to get home early tonight?
No,
Thank you.
Great job.
Thank you.
Okay, and next we'll ask our first selectman, Chandler Paquette. He wants to come up and offer any comments or overview of the federal government budget.
Thank you, Ed. Because it took 3 shots to pass the budget last year, we also had a supplemental tax. We thought that it was prudent to be as close to 3% as possible for the increase on the Board of Selectmen. The request came in at 4.73%. We made some hard choices and feel that we can make this budget work. Our final increase is $181,695, which is a 2.77% increase. Major cuts came from open space, the fire apparatus fund, The North Woodstock Library and Recreation, we were able to knock out almost over $100,000. So we think this is a good budget. It's as low as we can basically survive on. So we did our best.
Thank you, Chandler. Are there any questions or comments on the general government budget? Ma'am?
Hi, my name's Sherry Magnan, and I want to say that I'm very happy with the school budget this year, and I hope we collectively decide not to make any cuts there. What I will say is that I think that our town has some areas though for where we can make some changes. This is my third year standing up here in a budget timeframe talking about the same item, which is we have town employees that we don't have job descriptions for, and we do not have a performance evaluation process. And what I'll say to that is, again, for anybody working in the business world, you're not guaranteed a 3% or 3% plus pay raise just because you show up every day. You have to actually do the job and do it well. And I'm not saying that people aren't, and I'm not saying they are, but what I'm saying is that we are a business as a town, and we need to run and operate as one. And so I continue to ask for this to be implemented. I know, I think the response was we're less formal, we're a small group of people, but teachers get evaluated. You know, I know we have some people under contract and you can't make any changes, but we also have a number of people who aren't, and we should be setting a standard. And that shouldn't be just everybody gets a raise at 3%. So I ask you to relook at that. The other thing that I would ask is in the budget on our contracts for things such as fuel. We have one budget, and I think we should be operating our contracts as one as well. So I would like to know what the difference is between the school and some of their contracts and what they're negotiating versus the town, and where can we make improvements and efficiencies on those numbers?
Thank you. You want to comment on that? Karen? Yeah. Town Finance Director, Karen.
Hi, good evening. I just would like to add some clarification to Sherry. I had, oh, no, yeah. Hello, oh, sorry. I had emailed Sherry Magnan some information on her concerns regarding certain types of performance reviews and stuff like that. She had asked for several job descriptions, which our HR office manager, Crystal, had sent her. I guess there was more that we were unaware of that she was looking for. One was the first selectman, and I responded to her that the first selectman is elected and he is under statute. I gave her the chapter and the section of his duties. I also addressed her concerns about how the town hall does their performance reviews. And I just, first of all, would like to say, number one, it's not a law. We don't have to have them. It may be in corporate. They may have different laws. I'm not sure. But for us, the Fair Labor Standards Act does not require them. And we are a very small municipality. There's about 15 of us in the town hall and about 8 at the highway department. Mostly all of our employees, with maybe the exception of 5 or 6, are all under contract. Nobody's contract states that they're have to have reviews, especially the AFSCME and the Teamsters. They are guaranteed to get increases each year. They don't have to go through a review. It's not negotiated in there. So I just wanted to say that we do monitor our employees. We leave it mostly up to the department heads because there's usually 2 to us to an office. So if the department head feels as though maybe their employee of that department is not performing, it is usually handled between those 2 parties. And if something isn't resolved, it does go to the attention of HR and to the first selectman. And then we do sit down with them and we do have discussions each year during the budget process when The department heads send in their budgets. We try to sit down with them as much as we can and go over the needs of their departments. I don't feel, and I think that our policies are a little bit different because we're municipal. I understand, you know, it is like running a business, but there's a lot of restrictions when you're a municipal employee. We've ran this by our attorney on many occasions. So what I had given Sherry is what the policy is, and I'll be more than happy to just really quickly read this. It says, in response to the paragraph outlining documented performance procedure evaluations, annual performances are not always legally mandated, and the Fair Labor Standard Act does not require them. Since a municipality is small, under 50 employees, we have less formal annual evaluations. Our municipality does more ongoing and informal performance conversations with less rigorous than the private sector. We also trust in our department heads to monitor and evaluate the department employees. If there are performance issues, it is first handled at the department level. If such issue cannot be resolved, then it is brought to HR and the first selectman. As far as the contracts we have with AFSCME and Teamsters, annual performance evaluations were not negotiated in their contracts. Those contracts have specific salary increases that have been negotiated. It is also the responsibility of the first selectman to negotiate a contract, and the Board of Finance must finance it. The town's prior practice for over the past 20 years has been to follow AFSCME contracts for all town employees. And then she had an issue regarding like some of our justifications for salary increases. We use CCM to justify, and what I answered to that was the use of CCM data is used to justify salary ranges for positions. However, it also does provide information to help determine pay increases for people already in the positions based on their job description. And I did send that to her. I had heard nothing since, gave her the opportunity to come back and ask more questions. But as it stands, this is basically the town's policy on how we handle that. Perhaps in the future we can do better. That is something that the selectmen will need to sit down and look over. But as far as I think we are concerned, we have answered the question, and we do performances. Maybe we don't check boxes, but we do performance checks on our employees.
Thank you, Karen. Are there any other questions or comments on the general government budget? Sorry, before we see what anybody else said.
I have online.
Go ahead.
I would like to respond to that.
We'll get to you, Sherry, once everyone else has had a
The
chance.
microphone isn't working.
Have to talk louder.
There you go. Anybody else would like to make a question or comment?
I'll just relay the question.
Sure.
To repeat it, because it's brief. The question, this will be for either the selectmen or, okay. This is from AJ Purcell. What is in the budget for fire? One budget I saw listed that as 0. So I know it's not 0, but if someone that has the budget in front of them could comment into the mic about what the is.
Thank you.
Yep. Sorry, I just need a moment. Yep. $631,760. Thank you.
I'll turn it off.
Hi, I'm Kate McDonald. I'm on the Board of Selectmen. The Fire Protection Association budget is not 0. It is, the request that they were approved for was for the total of $631,760. That's a 3.78% increase over last year. I hope that answered the question.
I will.
Thank you, Kate.
Yeah, but there's another question. This is from John. This is from John Davis, saying there was a second part of Sherry's question regarding contracts for services, with both the schools and the town, in terms of coordination to reduce overall costs. or the question is there coordination to reduce overall costs?
I'm not sure who wants to.
Dina is in charge of fuel.
I think you should both answer.
Yeah, and I can,
Like to respond to that?
I can answer some of it. I'll
start and then
you can start. If she doesn't, I can elaborate.
Thank you. Dina Charzan, Business Manager for the Woodstock Public Schools. We do have some combined contracts. We both use the same IT managed services company, which saves us money. We also we use an insurance broker for all of our liability insurances, our property, our commercial, our vehicle. We use the same broker. We negotiate as a bigger unit, and that saves us some money. We also have electricity and solar contracts that are bundled. So in that respect, we have bigger buying power. So Karen,
I think you answered it perfect. Thank you.
Thank you, Dina. You're gonna get double pay tonight for. Any other questions or comments? Somebody who hasn't had a chance to speak? Sherry, did you have a follow-up you want to ask?
Thank you. It's not really, I guess, a follow-up, but more of a comment regarding Karen's comments. So I did send an email. I did request the job descriptions and the process, and I did receive all but 7 of them. So we have 7 positions that did not provide a job description for. If they exist, they were not provided. All of those jobs are requesting a 3 to a 3.5% that did not have a job description. So I just want to put that out there. Second, I think what is misunderstood in my comment is that I know it's not required to do job performance evaluations. What we're saying is that it probably should be if you're asking for continuing raises each year. That's it. Thank you.
Thank you, Sherry. Any other questions or comments? General government budget? Going once, going twice. Sir?
Bob Frudenberger here. I just wanted to ask, I don't understand, there's money for capital improvements and regular town budget, or is it all part of one?
Mr. Frudenberg, I think the capital improvements portion on the agenda, that's an annual review. The town identifies certain capital improvements that the town would like to proceed with if the funding becomes available. So it's not anything that's being approved tonight as being approved to move forward. It's dependent upon funding coming in. And then if it was going to be funded and move forward, Chandler, correct me if I'm wrong, I think there'd have to be another town meeting to approve the appropriation to cover that. So all towns have that 5-year capital plan in place. Any other questions or comments? If none, I guess we can close the discussion on item 2. And then just as a reminder, we'll have the referendum vote on
April 28th.
April 28th from 12 till 8 p.m. So please come out and vote on that. So we'll move next to item 3 on the agenda, which is to approve the capital improvement plan for the 5-year period ending 2030 to 2031, as has been recommended by the Board of Finance. And I don't know, Chandler, do you want to make any comments about that, the capital improvement plans?
Basically, the capital plan is the wish list. It's what we're hoping for. It's a way to prioritize future spending for the town. It includes roads, bridges, infrastructure, the transfer station, big, large items like that. And you have to have one by law. And if you don't have a capital plan, then you might not be eligible for certain state funding.
Thank you. Does anybody have any questions or comments on item 3? Ma'am?
Rebecca Hyde, English Neighborhood Road.
can you comment generally on where we're at in terms of how much money is in the capital reserve fund, how it's funded, whether you have any hope of actually funding the capital improvements going forward? When do you think we'll next have to bond extra money in order to cover them? All that good stuff.
I can.
Karen?
Hi, Rebecca. Just to answer your question, so we technically, don't have any separate funding for CNR as it stands right now. So what we normally have to do is, if there is nothing in undesignated, we will have to take from the general fund balance. And then that would, of course, go to a town vote to be able to utilize those funds for a capital project. And then we put it in CNR, which is capital non-recurring, and then once it goes to a vote, we can expend those funds. What we have been trying to do, because our fund balance has been being depleted throughout the years, is we're trying to look at the projects that have been committed, and if we haven't had time to get to those yet, we've been repurposing those for recent projects. We used to be able to save money in CNR and, build for a project over a few years. But again, we've had a lot of expenses recently with the bridges. So there's, not a lot of money in there at the time. So I would think that once the programs or construction projects are prioritized, then we'll have to see where we're at with fund balance, if there is money available to put into CNR or go out to bond. And of course, all of that is based on town approval. Does that pretty much sum it up for you? Do you have?
Not entirely comforting, but.
It's not comforting, it's not, but that's technically how it's working. Unfortunately, over the last several years, we've had a lot of big projects come up, and we've been utilizing the general fund to support it. And so now we're looking at not being able to save as much in CNR for a project, but utilizing it when people come to us.
Thank you, Karen. Any other questions or comments on the capital improvement? I just realized I put the cart before the horse. We need a motion to approve. Karen, is there a second? Any other discussion, questions or comments? All in favor, say aye. Opposed? Okay, thank you very much. Item 3 passes. Item 4 is to transact such other businesses may properly come before the meeting tonight. I'm not aware of any. Chandler, is there anything to come before the meeting? So there being no other items, I guess the final item is a motion to adjourn. Sure, certainly.
Hello, Jessica Weaver Booth, Prospect Street, and one of your registrar of voters. I just wanted to share, since next week will be the vote on the referendum, and it will be at the town hall from noon until 8 p.m. If you can't make those hours, please go see Christine at the town clerk's office. She or Joy will help you with an absentee ballot. As she said, there are ballots available after tonight, after the meeting. I want to let you know that last year when we did this 3 times, at the first referendum, we only had a 19% turnout. The second referendum, we went up to a 26% turnout. And the third referendum, we had a whopping 30% turnout, which was still not even 2,000 voters. We have 6,000 registered voters in our town. So please reach out to your neighbors and encourage them to come out and vote. Thank you.
Thank you, Jessica. All right, no other items. We have a motion to adjourn. Seconded, all in favor, please say aye. Opposed? Thank you. Thank you, everybody, for coming.